Hello, this is Cameron, and my conversation from beginning to the end is all about reasoning. How order, chaos, religion, industry, revolutions, economy, politics, engineering, evolution, democracy, all in all, discussed by reasoning. It's from numbers. You put numbers together and you have an answer. It's about the law. Reasoning resembles the law. And let me start to tell you by how it's come about for reasoning to be a law. Reasoning is artificial. It's not a natural phenomenon. Natural phenomena don't reasonize. The Earth goes 365 days around the sun. Doesn't reasonize why it does it. It just does it. And also it's not calculated. It's not in order. It just goes around. It's something that reasoning has no value in it. With all the stems I just mentioned, with all those politics, finance, engineering, whatever, etc., etc., none of them includes the root of a tree to grow where it likes to grow. There's no reasoning. There's no order. There's no engineering. It's only human have reached today's status by reasoning. It's ironic to see that we have come so far away from the counterpart of our counterpart, which are the phenomena of the natural livings, that none of them have anything to do with reasoning whatsoever. It's a calculation that we conclude some way and we stand or don't by it, and we carry out from there on. So I have been dedicating my life to find out where does this reasoning taking us to. And I have come across lots of conclusions. The most important one at the moment that I am working on is, as I mentioned yesterday, is the influence of language over the environment, politically, economically, and social environment of the country. Aside from that, is that I see from reasoning point of view, that the whole world is made of words, even numbers. Codes, they are words. Names, subjects, objects, they all have names. They all have words. So the words have the most, by vast amount, is the most important part of our development, human development. Without words, we wouldn't know where we come from, because therefore the literature would not be available to us. Without literature, we would be cut off hugely from the past. It would affect our culture, because the culture depends on literature. You don't know how 1,000 years ago people lived unless you read, and therefore you may be, you'll be able to continue it, to like it, to prefer it, so you can keep it. Had you not have any books to read by those Persian poets, you wouldn't know how to behave in such those standards. Religion wouldn't be available, and so on. I think, and I'm pretty sure and convinced, the words play the most important, by the vast amount, our development. We are what we think. We think by words. Every elements, every molecule in our thoughts has names, therefore is using words. Some of them many words for the same object, some of them fewer, some of them newer, some of them older. Anyway, so this is my conclusion, that human is what it thinks. Or better still, human is what it says. Whether by hand signs, whether by body language, whether by reading or writing, but speaking and writing is by the far most effective and fastest. Fast and efficient. Where it needs to be. Body language takes ages to express huge amount of words. So I like to emphasize on the words of the most important element of our creation. Our creation. Not their creation, not the stars' creation, our creation. The human creation. So therefore, it plays the most important role equally. We cannot deny that. It's reasonable to think so. Not emotional. Nothing to do with emotional, none whatsoever. Okay. Now let's rock and roll, as they say. We have established that William Shakespeare gave us the choice of words, expanded our mind with much more words that we could think of. For every subject, some of those words he invented up to 50 words. I watched the TV. My hero, Mr. Simon Lashma, one of the best British historian at the moment. I love his works. He said that Shakespeare invented words, and for so many words, I'm sure it was Mr. Simon Lashmar, or it could be another one of his great historians. Doesn't make too much difference to me. And everywhere else is written that Shakespeare invented so many words. And of course, some of those words are probably washed down a little bit. I'm sure it was more. But however, he paved the way for others to do such a invention. So British language, not language, the way they form the way they form the shape of the words, because that was there before. English language is a language that to shape words they use tongue. They use tongue to shape words. Unlike other countries, no other languages, I should say, not countries, because Australia is the same. All these English-speaking countries, they speak the same way. Strangely related to each other to speak English at the same time, to move the tongue to shape the words. Other languages, they don't. As I said yesterday, some of them speak from the movement of the facial muscles, and some others, they speak gutturals, using the throats to spell out the words. And so British, they use the advanced level, but it's got its own downside. For example, it's so easy to make the words, yet it loses its art form of creating the word. Therefore, we drift away from, shall we say, mannerism or prettinism, in return for advancing ahead, whether nice or not nice, just going ahead. So the easiness of the forming the shapes of the words has nothing to do with William Shakespeare. He just invented words and paved the way for others to invent so many more fast and proliferatingly. He went on, English language went on from coast to coast because the choice of words. And of course, the forming the words by tongue must have been easier than forming the words with guttural or facial artistic movements, using a nose, using lips, using the muscles of the face, and so on, to shape words, and other ones guttural, use the throat. Oh. So Mr. Shakespeare gave us a choice by the numbers, and therefore we went on to enjoy the freedom of choice, a matter of preference. So the preference came on board, and then when it came to Industrial Revolution, engineering became popular. Household, everybody involved with engineering by wearing their productions, and became a second nature. then it changed from preference into reference. So they referred to the words with the specifications, with the production. They referred to the production with the specifications and lots of references, all drawn on the papers and engineered in the machines, and took off. So people became preferential and referential. The two combination, paved the way for people to go towards a democracy, the modern democracy. The modern democracy that is based on the specifications and preference, choice. You have a choice, and then you have the specifications. Unlike, opposite than religious words. In the religious words, they lacked the choice of words, because the words were created or invented or made up by God, was told. They had a general purpose. The words you fit for everybody. It wasn't tailored for a certain person. As a result of that, for instance, if you think of heaven or hell, you realize it has got a general meaning. It doesn't specify. Therefore, everybody's opinion about these kind of words are different to each other. You won't find two people in the whole world to have the same opinion, regardless how well is described in the book. But today people cannot have the same opinion. In the past they could, because the people were that was the only word for them. You say, what is hell? They say, oh, don't even mention it. You go there, you burn out. But now they say, how do you burn out? What burns you? You need the specifications with details so people can see the same direction. You have to have a specification. Without a specification, opinions are different. So now we see how this all going to come together. Now, for example, you look at a country without discrimination. A Muslim country, for example. You see, the words they know, although they have made so many stems from one word, all the words, the root of the words all together are very handful. They are not many. The root of the words. So people have to think in general terms. They haven't reached the specifications. All right. You look at the dictionary in a Muslim country. All right. And you see each of those mainstream words, there are hundreds of different words, all similar, all come from the same words, hundreds each word. So you're talking about the entire dictionary should be divided by hundreds, or 100 at least. Because I'm speaking English, then it's a little bit difficult to get example. For example, the name Taqi, Taqwa, Taqwiyat, Taqdir, something similar to this. I don't know those kind of words really, but because I gave up, it's so much too primitive for me. Primitive in terms of back in history. Is a history. Those words are histories. They don't hold any specifications. Without the specifications, people have different in opinions. With having different in opinions, you lack agreement. Without agreement, you lack democracy. Without democracy, you have different grade of different two-tier system, too rich or too poor. If you look at any of these Muslims country, for example, you see that quite clearly. That is the production of such a system of language. The words are old, they turn it to a new and modern one, but it still belongs to the same old word. They are not different. And since the religion was the mainstream of the power in the Islamic world, and the language was advanced and sophisticated by their kings on purpose to show their Muslim kingdomship, not the nation, not a national. A Muslim country doesn't have the nationality, doesn't have address, doesn't have a specification. You might say Egypt. That's a name for a town, for an area. That's nothing important. But do you have Egyptians? No, you don't have Egyptians. Tunisia, okay, is a piece of land with a name, not a problem. That's fine. But what is important about that piece of land is that the people, they live in that land. Do you have a person to be called Tunisian? No, you don't. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, these are examples. Lands with names in them. That's fine, like everything else, they have names, not a problem. You can call it anything. But do you have people that belong to that? No, you don't have. Muslims don't have address. They can be everywhere. Doesn't matter for them if it is Saudi Arabia or is Egypt or is it Tunisia. Wherever they are, they like to be called Muslim. There's no nationality in them. Arab, Arabian, Arabic, it is meaningless. You can't say an Arabic country because although it is a piece of land, but it's not a country, because a country has to have a people, a native people, a country fellow, a countrymen. But you don't have countrymen. Instead, you have Muslims. With all respect, not a problem. You have Muslims. You don't have a country. You don't have Arabian people. Arabic country. What is Arabic country? What is it? An Arabic country that you're supposed to have the culture. And what is an Arabian country's culture? What, to preach all day long? Or to pray all day long? What is it? I mean, isn't that what they do? What do they do? What else do they do? Odd bits here, odd bits there, weaving a few baskets from straws and picking a few dates from the tree. What else? What is their culture? They kept the culture of killing ruthlessly, yes. But the country has to have so much culture. Do they have gardening culture? Do they have whining culture that it can run from father to the generation after generation? Or leather works? Or carpet works, knitting? Or building works and architectural? Or car designings? Do they have those? What culture? There are so many of them. Why? Because the Arabian culture, which whatever it was, milking the goats or living in the tents or whatever it was, Arabian, each countries, they had culture. But when the Islam took over, replaced it with preaching and praying 5 times a day, and each time you about an hour or so, and the rest of the time you sit in the mosque and you pray, or you're all the time at home you read in the Bible or Quran. And what else? I mean, what is that got to do with culture? Not to mention a religion is a philosophy, after all, strong philosophy. Remember when I mentioned last night about the communism would have washed the Islams all the way to the seas. It was successful. It would have been successful. And even Christianity was fearing that to death, to abolishment. Communist country penetrated every piece of land in this world until it reached America, and it was the only country who fought it and managed to push it back. In Britain, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, all the European countries, the leading country. Never mind about the poor countries of Africa. The entire Africa was communism. Entire Asia, including Russia and China, was a communism. Vast, 90%, 99%, 5%, 95% of the world was communism. 90% of it was communism. That was philosophy. And that shattered into pieces, gone, dusted away. So what makes Islam so sure of itself? No, it doesn't. It's going to fall apart sooner or later. It's going to fall apart. Islam is no stronger than communism and Marxism. It's not. You can't calculate, you can't study. You see how many countries in a matter of 50 years, and Islam been there for 1400 years. Do you think communism had stayed for 1400 years? Where could be? I mean, every person would have been communism, plus 3 generations after each person was registered to be communism, before the third, sixth generation be born. Has shattered, gone overnight, whished, gone. What it makes Islam so formidable? It's nothing. Philosophy come and philosophy goes. Okay, so those so-called Arabian countries, they are not Arabian countries, they are Muslim countries. And for Muslims, wherever they go is the same. They call themselves their country native because they're money making business. They make money out of it, regardless how Muslim they are, but it's for money making purpose that they call themselves Tunisia, Egypt, this, that country. But none of the Muslim countries, Arabian countries, they don't exist. Anyway, so the influence of a language over the economy, political and social is becoming prevailed. We see how the language influences their countries, their belonging countries. If you speak Islamic, come on now, Arabic, there is no Arabic. If it is, then why they all speak the same way, same language? Why? And they have their nations, they have their countries. If they do, then why do they speak all the same? Because the language is not Arabic. The language also is Islamic. They speak Islamic language. Why? Because when the powerful, the mighty kings of Islam, like Caliphate, okay, mighty, powerful, the kings of Islam ruled the Islamic world, they started to pump the language. Do we think for 1 second Arabian people were speaking the same language before the Prophet of Muhammad and after the Prophet of Muhammad? Were they speaking the same language? No, 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 no. Of course not. Their language is far limited. Advancing language, it requires studies, expansion, universities. They help to advance a language. And that's what the kings of Islam brought. They made universities, they hired book writers, they hired language specialists, they hired all kind of people to promote the language, to have grammar, advanced version of it at a time, extra word, stemming words from it, from each words, writing books after books, and encouraging writers by giving them money and positions. Not for 1 second we can think the language after Muhammad and before Muhammad was the same. Arabian people before, they were like nomads. They didn't have all this advanced technique at the time for speaking Arabic. And when the king of Islam promoted the language of Arabic, he also favored Islamic words, Islamic style of the promotion of the language. So Arabic become advanced Islamic language. No more Arab culture, no more Arab language. That means no more Arabs. How can you be a native of a culture without having it? You don't have culture, you're finished. You're nobody. You gotta have a certain culture. You can't have, it doesn't matter if it's your parents or not. You could go and live in a country with no parents whatsoever, but yet that country has to become your culture. But since you go in a country and you stay Muslim, then you won't have the country's religion, culture. You stay a religious person, because you're thinking wherever you go, that is your first and most important thing. In Islam, the Islam is everything. When you think the Islam tells you, you don't do nothing, I do everything for you, you are only there as a number, then you don't need a culture. What culture to do what? You have a culture to use it. But in Islam, you don't have to do anything. Everything is done. Everything, if they say, is written on your forehead, where you coming and where you going. They say God will decide for you. If you say by car, why am I driving a car? They say God created the car. The person who made that car, he created that person in the factory, and then he made the car, and he guided the car and put a chauffeur in it, and he came and he stopped there for you to go from A to B. And that's what Islam says. I'm not saying it. Don't blame the shoot. I'm just messenger. Don't kill the messenger. It's nothing to do with me. I'm only telling you what I observed. I have the greatest respect for human being and a minimum respect for religion. No respect, because it's nothing there to be respected at. I respect a piece of brick because it can build a house for me. It's a material. It's no material, no respect. I am from a planet Earth. I believe in half I see and none I hear. This is my culture. And I can't see beyond this. And if, like I said yesterday, if you're asking me, then do you have to see everything before you accept in its existence? I say, no, I don't have to see. Then they ask me, how do you agree with it? Then I say exactly the same way as everybody else agree. Exactly the same way as you agree. I don't know Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, sorry, Albert Bernstein is a musician. Sorry, I think from Czech Republic, a violinist or Russia. Albert Bernstein, yeah, who made the vast majority of the movies of the 60s and 50s, including the most popular films. Every film he was in it. I remember that. But Albert Einstein, okay, existed. Okay, I never saw him. All right. You're going to say to me that, how do you know he is? I say, because the same way you know. If the people agree with it, then I have seen it. If the people don't agree with it, then it's not there for me either. Anyway, we're not going to run away with that just because you're going to say, oh, well, if everybody's going to say this, you're going to say this. Is all to do. It's nothing to do with it. But you can't say, if I believe in God, then that means if, you know, for the same purpose, if I don't see something, should I not? The word, Islamic word, is to believe. Or sorry, religious word is to believe. I don't use that word because that word belongs to religion, not belongs to me or democratic person or people today, because the times when religion was absolute, the word to believe had meanings, but today it doesn't have meaning. In any case, anything cannot be measured, therefore cannot be specified, therefore it cannot be used. It cannot be used. The word used is something, it stems from material. How can you use something that is not material? How can you do that? So the word using is actually, it has to be from moving something to something else, what we call it manipulating. Manipulation is that you get the empty saucer, an empty cup, all right, and a lonely bowl of sugar, and a lonely kettle, and invisible piece of water. You put them together, you make a delicious cup of tea. That's to manipulate. Or you find a piece of electric wire and sitting there alone, and you got a plug sitting there alone. You put them together so you can have a bright lamps, light, to light up electric bulbs. Okay. So this is what we do. We manipulate. We can use things. But if something is like a believing, I can't do anything with it. What can I do? It doesn't do anything for me. Heaven, hell, hope. What can it do for me? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not even absolutely. That word is also abandoned. One more speciality I'd like to introduce to you is what I call, should be abandoned, or fossil words, or ancient words, or useless words. The words from the past that carried themselves into the belly of a horse, Trojan horse, all right, by religious leaders, and brought into time to us. You have no doubt whatsoever that the word hope is a religious term to make you feel hopeless or hopeful. Depends which way is suitable for them. They use this technique, advanced technique, when the English kings were dying 200 years ago, one of the George, I think, and they were there and they could make the person hopeless. And now you see in the Muslim times anyway, all right, they make them hopeless because they go to hell. They have done so many wrongs, and so they give them their properties and they beg their forgiveness and they vouch for them to go to heaven. And when they came out, all the peasants, they seeking money and financial helps, and all the guy did, make them hopeful. So they took a hope and give it to somebody else. It's just been traders. That's a dirty trade with empty philosophy. Okay, with a philosophy which is empty and is not tangible. That is what they are doing in Iran present moment. They just give them empty hopes and taking their money. Baby's milk. They're taking them. The ruthlessness is in their horns. So, I am not confused with people, I'm confused with the religion. That the words that people they use today, that it come from the past. Far, far, far away, something like maybe 5,000 years ago, the word of hope was there. Human weakness was by fear of God. In terms of soul, ghosts, you know how popular ghost was. In every Muslim country, the fear has drowned people. Fear. Become shaky, coward, cowboys. They don't want to, they don't have determinations to go to do something. God will do it all for them. If they do something wrong, they think that God is punishing them. If they do something right, they think God takes the benefit. They're just the pawns. And rich people, clever people, they use them. These revolutions we see nowadays, Arabian Spring, there is no Arabs. Islamic Spring, you can call it, yes, I would have accepted it. But there is no Arabs, and therefore nothing after that will stick to it, because there's nothing there. It's all matter of calculations. So, these Islamic words influence the Islamic countries socially, economic, and politically. They think that way, they trade that way, and they live that way. Because the words cannot afford any democratic system. When we come into democratic system, the style of the words are different. They use far less meaningless words, much more usable words. And those words are on the planet where we can see, therefore we can agree or even disagree on it. But if you can't see it, if you agree, you're just pretending, and if you don't agree, you go to war. There is no compromise. You either pretend or you fight. In democracy, objects speak. People use those objects to express themselves. This is the fact. This is the reality. This is the object. What we can see, where we can call it a fact. Where we don't see, we call it a theory or dream. Hence, when Turkey changed the writing language to Latin, it was the beginning of the new era for them, coming to become advanced. Had they changed the reading, which is speaking, as well, and choose one of the Latin words, if they could speak English, then that would be just finished the whole world. They could choose another Latin word to say it, then Turkey wouldn't be anything less than any of the European country. It wouldn't. This is reasoning. Why do you think, what was a turning point of Turkey then, I ask? What was a turning point of Turkey? Turning point where you start going forward and advanced and sophisticated, which he is by now by far more different than 100 years ago. 100 years ago, Turkey was another dead Muslim, dead duck in the water. Wasn't it? Wasn't it? What was it? Even Ottoman is still rubbish, completely rubbish. They killed thousands of those Armenians people over religious discriminations. Wherever they went, they just used the force, dictate. It was pure rubbish. And all the way to Ataturk. Ataturk, they call it the father of the Turk. And what was his most important job? Changing the language, of course. You think it's easy to change a language? Oh, come on. Do you think it's easy to change a nation's language? 50% of the language they changed. They says no more writing from right to left. You all left to right. Forget that. And there is a result. They, like any other European country, they use the Latin. They got keyboards. You look at the Islamic country, keyboard doesn't mean anything. Persian Muslims, Iran Muslims, look, keyboard Pinglish. You have to decode the words. To read 4 lines paragraph, you have to spend half a day. Even that, if you still don't understand it. Everybody writes it differently. There's no standard, nothing. There's no keyboard, anything. Doesn't mean rubbish. Meaning what? Meaning we're writing Farsi in a Latin way. This is exactly what they did it 70 years ago. 80 years ago. They did that properly, standardized. And this is what Pinglish, that's what it is. They call it Tinglish, Turkish English. This is what we are doing. We're writing what we are saying in Latin. The fruit of Islam is as useless as a dead in the water. That's why it's going to be gone to dust. And who is going to do it? Whoever. It's not going to be difficult. It's not going to be difficult. It surprises me why those clever people, they haven't come to this idea yet. Or what is there? Something in it for them? No. What's something in it? Who needs headache? Democracy, if it was running into those poor countries with the Arabian Springs, would be far more advantages. The advantages would be as follow. 1, be less war. Doesn't matter, money, principles, whatever. Because most war are driven by religion. In democracy, you don't have religion as such. You don't have that. It doesn't allow you. 2, the law of the land would be driven by people, not by God. The wealthy people would share their money with the poorer people, because democracy makes it that way, takes away the classes of difference, big difference, takes away that, and brings more classes between the tariffs, whatever, between tiers. All right? And people would bring stability to the people and the region, because with democracy is far more stable. You look at the Indian democracy. If there was no democracy, India would be into pieces. Into pieces. What made them? What made India to one of the greatest democracy on the planet under circumstances? Because the vast nation and vast religion differences. What made it? Think about it. What made it? What made the Turkey to change? What made the India to change? Because they speak English, or they spoke English. They got the taste of that, taste of the language. It meant something. They realized that, we speak of material. We know that words, we have choices. We can have specifications. We can have democracy. If they were speaking Indians, all right, they would be in pieces. They would be in pieces. And look at the nations now, they speak English. UK, US, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. Do they look like an unstable country to you? No. Under no circumstances. Impregnable with any influence of dictatorship. Is the only democracy that lasts. Not dictatorship. So to me, these Islamics spring is not going to make any difference. The only time they make a difference when people realize they have to change their language. And they do. Not the poor ones. The rich ones do. They all know English. And like I said, if a Chinese businessman wants to make a transaction with the US businessman, he is not going to write a letter in Chinese to the American counterpart. He has to write in English. And he does. And he knows. All their kids can speak English. The business is in the West. The money is in the West. If they want it, they have to speak the language. They have to understand, therefore, the culture. Because language dictates the culture. You see? If Chinese wasn't for the world of English speaking language, it still be a Chinese. It still be run by peasants or kings or whatever they call them. Is the world of democracy open the door for them to view? And for their ultimate success has to become democracy. All this communism, I mean, look at the language, how poor the language is dictating their culture. I'm a Chinese, I'm a communist, but I'm a capitalist. And eventually I'm going to be imperialist because I'm a tycoon. A tycoon is imperialist. He's got his own empire. Empire State Building. Onassis was the emperor. Paul Getty was the emperor. Rockefeller was the emperor. Paul Getty, Billy Gates, he's a emperor, and million more others. What stops the Chinese to have so many emperors? What do you call that person? Well, how do you address that? Your Highness, Your Royal Highness Emperor the Communist? I mean, emperor, yet communist. I mean, you look at the uselessness in it. It's running like a torrential rain. It's pouring. An emperor communist title. I'm a communist, but I'm an emperor at the same time. I mean, look at laughing. You just have to laugh. That's it. It's a joke. You see? So the influence of the language, now they have their economic, social, and political mishaps, misunderstanding, inconclusive. It cannot reach anywhere. It's all temporarily. It's just waiting for that to go one way or the other. The English language is a language of materials, determining democracy. Where people see the object before they can agree or disagree. To see the object, all will be viewed from same angle of view. But if you have words come from the sky, you can't see them. So you can't agree with them or pretending you agree. And if you disagree, you can't compromise, you end up with war. Yes. This is how it works. The 4 shapes of democracy is like an American shape. Democracy is like a football. 52 pieces making one ball. They all support each other tight and strong. English or British system is run like a dice with 6 sides in it. There's not as many as a state, but it's a dice. It always land on one side. Then you have a socialist governments like Eastern Europe's or socialist Europe's. They are like a pyramid. One person always gradually ends up to one person. He is in charge of the country, but gradually through hierarchy. Then you have a dictating country like Iran. It's like a stick. The person on top is on top of each person of the country. Anybody moves, he knows directly. Not gradually, not indirectly, and not at all. Or you have to go around a half a circle before you can understand what it says. Or full circle. You see? The 4 shapes. Ball, dice, pyramid, and stick. This is my own experience. Everything I have said so far is of my own experience, no one else. All right. So, how did that democracy come about? Originally, Jesus invented "believe in me" at the time of religion was kicked in. Believe in me is believe in material, because I am the Son of God, therefore I am the material. I am a material, you believe in, you want to pray for me, you want to pray for material, so you get it. So the materialism became vastly popular. It hit the European countries, they grabbed it first, while the Muslim country is still praying for spirit. They were still, and they still do, praying for the spirit, but praying for the spirit only gives you spiritual power. It doesn't give you the financial power or material power or earth power. And if you are on the earth and you see your spiritual power, it doesn't wash, it can't be converted, it can't be translated, it can't be changed into material, then it's confusing, it's very nerve-wracking, it's very angry management, you know. It's like you can turn to a fanatic, okay, because you keep trying to develop those spiritual, call it beliefs, then it doesn't materialize itself, and then it drives you crazy. But you materialize it, but not over the material people, you materialize it over the spiritual people. So you grab a few pennies off them, and it works so far. But when you come into the grassroots and threshold of materialism, then you see it won't work. You only can fool the fellow Muslims to make money. You can't fool the Christian, because they brought up different kettle of fish, and you Muslims brought up different kettle of fish. You are in the spirit of everything, they are in the material of everything. For you to follow the principle of what is above the earth, for them is to follow the principle of is on the earth. Heaven and hell is on the planet, hence. You say heaven and hell is above in the sky universe, you might travel 60 billion light years, because it's infinitely at the moment, you don't know where it goes. The universe after universe after universe, they all call it one big world universe. Actually, this is a stardom. Whatever it is, it goes. You need billion. Some of these stars, they say, is 10 billion years, light years is away. So the God is not going to just watch us here. It's not only for us. It must be for them as well too. If you travel 300,000 kilometers per second, per minute, and then change it into hour, and then change it to 24 hours a day, then you 300 multiply by 365 days a year, then you go 9 billion years of that. Is something that if you If you make each number 1 inch, it takes you beyond the universe and brings you back. Just a number. You put it next to each other, not inch. You put it half a millimeter next to each other. Just a number. If you put a half each number, each digit, you make half a millimeter next to each other, which is really is half a millimeter is normal standard for us to put the figures next to each other. If you put that figure, it will take you to the moon and back. The figure. So the God is not going to control that, and it's only for me here on this planet. He's coming just to watch me only. Oh, come on, not making any sense. You know what is sense? Not making any sense. Sense is reasoning, and what can you reason with? It's what you have. Not what you don't have. You can't reasonize with what you don't have. It has to be seen. It has to be so that we can calculate. It is these words have come across from the past in Trojan horse by religious people of all kind. These words apply for everybody, and they are not to be used. The word believe, for example, it was the word when there was an absolute. The word absolute was when the time was there was something absolute, but now there is nothing absolute. Even the presidents, 5 years later, they change. What is there to be absolute? So why do we use this word? Why? We know there is nothing absolute anymore. Then why do we say it? Nobody can tell why. Isn't it sad? We know these words they don't have no bearings on them, and we're still using them. I believe in this. What do you mean I believe in this? You joking me? What can you believe? Everything is hollow. Everything is hologram, 3D, TV, media, TV, media, TV, media, TV, media, TV, media, everything. It's come from books. You never experience any of things you know. And even your experiences still cannot depend. You see a piece of gold, you believing it's gold, they tell you it's rubbish, but it's painted with gold. You say then you believe in is painted in gold because you think it is expert people told you that. You bring it back to this person and he tells you it's gold. The other person tells you it's rubbish. Gold, rubbish, gold, rubbish, gold, rubbish. You get confused because you was originally thinking either of them. But you keep going wrong. You touch a piece of cloth and you're thinking what a lovely material is pure silk. When you read the label, it's nothing but the polyester. So what you believe in 1 minute it was silk and now you're thinking it's a polyester. What happens to you? Nothing? You're so indifferent? Is your belief shattered in front of your eyes and you still skin this thick? Aren't you sensitive to feel ashamed of yourself and say, oh look, why didn't I just say I think it is a silk or I think it is a gold? So keep yourself with some leverage in case you go wrong or mistake I should say, then you won't lose face to yourself. Nobody there. Isn't that all? We start by ourselves. I'm not preaching anything. I'm reasoning with you. That's what they do. reasoning beyond the shadow of the doubt. That's it. I'm determining what is right and what is not, or what is correct. And therefore, we see this world of religious world like a good and bad. How can it be good? It's good for you only, because what is good for you is a poison for somebody else. How can it be good for everybody? But if it is correct, then it's correct for everybody. That's where the democracy brings the law. And what do they say if you don't have religion? Oh, you need to have religion. Who said that? Who said that? What's wrong with people? Double meaning. Those people and these people. What's wrong with people? Why can't I believe in, or rather I should say, agreeing with them or accepting their opinions instead of holy religion persons? God told them. God told them to themselves. But so far we don't see any religious person to be themselves. They all want to advertise. They all want to influence and tell you what God told them, and is for you as well. Now, if you don't want to be a religious person, but you have to listen to them. Why should you? We know the advertising, you should have a choice. You should be able to unsubscribe. Okay, you should be able to unsubscribe an advertising. But with religious advertising, there is no unsubscription. You have to listen. If you see advertising somewhere, you have got the right to turn your face. But religious won't leave you alone. They come and knock on your door like a salesman. Why do they do that? Well, that's not very democratic. I don't have a choice to be left alone. Why do they infringing my peace? Why do they have my children go to church or to mosque? Where is the church and mosque in curriculum? What curriculum is it? Why do they have to go to church if it is not a curriculum of a school? They do. In the West, kids go to church by the school. There is not their curriculum. No. PE, physical exercise, is. Painting and drawing maybe. Cooking and statue making maybe. But not religion. We know the religion is not the curriculum. But you still do. They say everybody is equal, but religious people do exempt from tax. Why are they exempt from tax? Why? Because they're preachers? Well, I'm a preacher, but I'm not exempt from tax. Anybody can be a preacher. It's the easiest job in the whole world. You see? So these words, half of words belong to old system. They have no bearing over a new system. What does it mean, God bless you? What does it mean? Somebody is drunk out of his pants and he tells me, God bless you. I mean, why can't he be blessed himself? He's just dying from his own decision, inadequate decision making. He decided to be drowning himself with the booze and getting lost in a gutter, and he turns around and he tells you, God bless you. I mean, what does he know about the God? Why is he wishing me bloody? Why is a rich person doesn't tell me that? A perfectly nice person doesn't tell me that. This is all misconcept. People is just the words don't know me, but words are the giver of the personality. You are what you speak. As simple as that. Not even what you eat, not even how you dress, not how rich you are. You are only what you say. If the words come out of your mouth is full of swearings and history, then I know what kind of person you are. If you speak polite and pleasant, I know. If you're helpful talking, then I know. People know you by the way you speak, what you say, the words. They read your lips and they find out exactly what you're saying, what kind of personality you do, especially if it's over a period of time. And especially if you're telling the truth. If you're a liar, then they find out, they don't talk to you. They know, they brand you immediately. If you're so contradictive, then they know you don't know much. You see? We are made of words. We most certainly are made of words. In other words, the most famous scientist in the United Kingdom is the guy, I forgot his name, he's the greatest guy in the world. The one who is got a stroke and he still talks. You take the words away from him, he's gone. The only things keep him alive is the words. And he does typing as well by computer talking. And he's got a machine and all that with talking. How can you be without talking? Or communicating? Isn't that what's all about? So, what's the point of having today's world and we use the ancient language? Contradictive. It doesn't match. There's no harmony. We have millions of items around us, all man-made and the natural, whatever there is. They determine what to say. Every time we speak something, we referring to something, some object. Anyway, I think I should leave it now a little bit. And I'd like to thank you, whomever is watching me. I mean to straighten out some records, distinguish from the past and present, and pave the way for future. And I don't wish, I just like everybody to be happy, healthy, successful, and so on. And be certainly realistic and talk what you can see and not into the invisible, wherever they may be. There's no bearing on us, none whatsoever at the moment anyway, not for quite some time. And I'd like to bid you all a very good night and have a pleasant evening, or what's left of it.